So I'm just going to go over some things I missed on the first thing I talked about in the crematorium. There is crematorium companies or funeral homes that won't allow you to open the crematorium door during the cremation process. One reason is because the rush of cold air can come in and cause refractory shock. Uh, it's their policy, and but we did. We didn't worry too much about that. They're going to crack eventually, anyways. And but it gives us a chance to see how the cremation is going, and if we have to sweep the ashes forward under the main burner, that's what we do to help speed up the cremation. And the problem with the cracks, if you're not careful and if you abuse it, they end up getting, the floor starts to fall apart, and eventually it's so hard to sweep out the ashes, and big chunks will come out. And and then, if you can do 800 cremations in the machine before each floor, because floors cost about $15,000 to $20,000. So if you can hit over 800 cremations, you're doing pretty good. And so this is one of the reasons that but if you're careful, you should be able to make the floor last longer. And because when you sweep the ashes out with the steel broom, the brushes, the bristles, they scratch the floor, grease gets in the scratch, and eventually it'll break the floor down. Because actually the bricks are quite soft. And so when you look inside the chamber, you'll see that the body actually moves because of the muscles contract in the heat. Sometimes the arms will be up, the legs will move, and two things that the organs and the brain probably takes the longest to cremate. And because it's so wet and moist. The only smell at the beginning of the cremation, which people do ask us, is just the hair and the skin moving off, burning off. And so that's why we don't open the door right away, so we don't have to smell that, And, the first cremation in the machine that we were on took about 3 hours in the morning because the machine was cold. That's why you try and keep the machine hot overnight, keep the door closed. Unless it's a big body that's going to go in, then you want the machine cold inside. And so then what happens is we will try and speed up the process by bringing them forward under the main fire. And so if you can get it down, because the next cremations should burn quite quickly, an hour and a half, somewhere in there. And but even on them, we still will try and rake them forward under the main burner fire. And if we had a hot blast on our machines, you could have, that's near the end of the machine, and that thing helps finish the cremation off really quick. And it's just like a jet engine going off in there. And so you can break the bones down a lot faster. The things that are left inside the chamber with bones and metal, everything else is completely gone. It should be. If you sweep the chamber out when it's too hot, you end up wrecking your broom because the bristles just melt right off. And they're about $120 a piece. And so let it cool down for at least an hour and a half before you decide to sweep out. And the chamber. We will go into, when we sweep out, the ashes go into a pan, and then you can place it on the processor. Do not process when they're super hot, because you will end up burning out the bearings on the processor. And I've seen that so many times. They just put ashes on the processor that are about 800 degrees, and then wonder why the bearing's gone. And so not a good idea to do that. And to let them cool down, for half an hour before you try and process. And then any metal in with the ashes is taken out by a magnet and then just disregarded. And so the only thing that should go in the urn would be the cremains. Also sweeping out, you should wear a shield to protect your face from any tiny little bone particles flying out, and they can burn. One thing I suggest, do not cremate leather, jackets, boots, if possible, because what it does, it turns the ashes green, and then we have to explain that to the family. If you're okay with that, the funeral home should talk to you about that, what it'll do to the ashes, and so you're not freaking out when you see them. There's certain cremation caskets that leave a mess in the chamber, and it mixes in with the ashes, so that you don't get a clean white cremated remains back. two of the caskets that caused problems was the Hadley and the Novato. They just left a mess mixed in with the ashes. And there's other ones that burn really nice, Belmont, Bellevue, plywood tray. So you want the bones as nice and white as you can get them. And now the other thing too that a lot of people don't understand, when you go to scatter, if that's what you plan on doing, you're going to be in for shock. There's about 3 to 5 pounds of cremated remains, small bone fragments, and that's what happens. And it'll hit the ground real quick. Everybody seems to think they just float in the air and they're gone. They don't. And so we always try to explain to them if they say they're scattering them, because it's too heavy and it's bone fragments. There is some dust, and that, and so just ask questions, and the funeral home should give you some ideas of what's going to take place. And so that's it for right now. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.